Very good afternoon to you. It is Afternoon Edition with Nihal, Arthanayake and Sarah Brett. If you are just joining us, you've missed TV Club, but it's all good because we've got Craig David. Two of them are just walking in now, so Nihal's gone out, obviously to make me a cup of tea, Craig. You know? Come on, he's coming over here now. More hugs. Lovely to meet you. How's it going? That's the first time I've ever had a hug before an interview. He doesn't know what's coming. Clearly.
It's all love. It's all love.
You smell good. My goodness, Craig David is in the house. His new album, The Time Is Now, is out. He's here to tell us all about it. But first, let us have a listen to some of his biggest tracks.
Why were you creeping round late last night? But then I see two shadows moving in your bedroom light. Now you're dressed in black. When I left, you were dressed in white. Can you feel me? I met this guy on Monday. Took her for a drink on Tuesday. We were making love by Wednesday. And on Thursday and Friday and Saturday we chilled on Sunday. What's your flavor? Tell me what's your flavor? What's your flavor? Tell me what's your flavor? What's your flavor? Tell me what's your flavor?
Six of one thing and but doesn't have another. Six of one thing and but doesn't have another. Tell me one thing, then you go and do another. Six of one thing and but doesn't have another. Six of one thing and but doesn't have another. I felt nothing like this, like this. I felt nothing like this, like this. I know you know me too. We're all stumbling through the night, but it's paradise in our minds. I know you.
Oof. Drop.
That's a great beat. Craig David is with us. The time is now, and you're still wearing that watch that says now.
Yeah. It's just like it's a, it's not so much like a watch. It's like a gentle reminder that sometimes everything's going so fast, and you're always thinking about tomorrow and what's the next thing, and I've got this to do, and then you sort of slow down. Okay, you still here? You healthy? Okay, cool. Your family good? Yeah. Okay. Your friends are all good, and you sort of it just brings you into the moment. I'm very much about that.
Yeah.
Because I've experienced the 17 years of things going very, very fast. And I think wisdom has said it's been about the journey as opposed to the destination.
Well, thank you for getting here on time despite having a watch that only says now.
Fantastic. My iPhone still does its job, though. Don't
Thank
worry.
goodness for
It's all
that.
good, don't worry.
Phew. You actually
And Chris Slade does his job.
Yeah. The team are all on it. You know what I mean?
Chris. Got you here.
The 17 years, you just mentioned that. I mean, we were talking about, you're only 36 now, which just reminded both of us of how young you were when you started out. You were 14.
Yeah, well, 14 was like, I'd won a songwriting competition. There was a group called Damage back in the day that
Yeah, of course.
had all those pop hits. And I'd written a song called I'm Ready, and it was on the B-side of their Wonderful Tonight Eric Clapton cover, which ended up going to number 3 in the charts, which, as far as I was concerned, it was my song was number 3 in the charts. I mean, so I was telling all my friends, look, number 3, look, it's in the Virgin Megastore or the HMV. And then it wasn't my real break. I thought that was going to be my moment, but it was more recognition that I could write a song. It was like, actually you can write a song, because this huge pop group have taken this song and ran with it. So it led me into then meeting the Artful Dodger, and Rewind started to happen, and then all of a sudden there was an album called Born to Do It, and my life changed. So
Absolutely. 6 platinum selling album, Born to Do It. But how long had you been actually writing for, Craig?
I mean, it would have been around 13, 14
Yeah.
was when I was writing songs. I think Born to Do It really started to happen when I started to release. We were probably a year and a half before, where all these songs and ideas that I had, came to fruition by having someone who could create the music, which was Mark Hill, who was one half of the Artful Dodger, with Pete Devereaux, who's the other half. Because I didn't have that, I just had vinyl and my instrumentals, and that was my way of doing it. And he didn't have a lyricist or a top-line melody guy. So when we connected, it was like fate. It was like, oh, you've got everything I need, you've got everything I need, and then boom. First song we sort of really came with outside of What You're Gonna Do with Rewind, and it was like, it just changed. It was a game changer for everything. Do you know what I mean?
Tell me about the kind of standout memories of those times. I remember it very clear. I remember getting the demos, walking away, and all these when it had the original U2 sample on it, and all of these things, and people just super excited about this kid. But there was a whole lifestyle around garage. It wasn't just the music, was it? It was something very, very different.
Yeah, there was something. It was the birthing of this new sound. I mean, it was when you're at the forefront of something which was kind of it's sort of taken elements from the US or soulful house and that movement out of Chicago. But then when it got over to the UK, it was like the beats were a lot more kind of crisper. It would kind of lend itself into more R&B sampling, which is what I loved about it. I was like, I'm singing a slow jam at the core of this over a beat that makes you feel like you're in a club and you can dance to, which is why Fill Me In was that beautiful kind of hybrid of the two. It kind of, you got to the verse being very R&B and I thought, oh, this is like a slow jam. But then you get to the chorus and it kind of picks up. Rewind was the complete opposite of that. And it threw a lot of people off when I remember doing my first performances because people were like, well, what are we supposed to do? You're supposed to turn up in the chorus, but you've kind of just done this, should we dance? Should we not? Should we? And then it went off in its own lane because it was risk taking. Because I knew that I was like, if this bass line hits you in the same way that it makes me feel when I get home and play it on my stereo, we're on to a winner. And I mean, thankfully, it kind of connected in the way it did.
Looking back on the teenage Craig David and having this kind of fame thrust upon you very quickly indeed, do you feel as though you handled it as well as you could have at the time? Any regrets? Any like look back and go, wow, that kid had his head on his shoulders?
Do you know, no regrets, because I kind of always believe in life that every single thing leads you to where you are. Like every quote unquote failure led me to be here where I am sitting today, because there's always a blessing in that. If you can learn from the lesson of whatever it's trying to show you, that it may be an obstacle, but it's how did you deal with that? But my parents were just fantastic. I mean, they instilled great morals, and my mum and dad always kind of went beyond their means to kind of provide for me. And my mum picking me up at 2:00 in the morning when I was 15 years old, who didn't have a car and was just had my huge record boxes, just finished a gig. And to think your mum's sitting there waiting up till 1:30 to then come and pick me up. And I'm like, those are the moments that I was like so grateful for. So when it did all kick off, it was so fast. But I just looked back and said, you know what? I'm doing this for a different reason than just the ego. It's like, I want to make sure my parents are proud of what we're doing. Do you know what I mean? You went and bought me records with your last £50 that would have been a savings, not just you've got some money sort of lying around. I mean, so grateful. It's amazing.
That is above and beyond, isn't it? Because there are a lot of parents that not only would they not do that with their money, but they would have desperately tried to push you in another path and get you to do something else with your life, because it's a precarious business that you've entered, as you well know.
Very much. You know what it is? I think it's that, and I've seen this with kids who kind of, when they're allowed to do what they want to do in terms of what's intuitively you're passionate about. And if you can kind of provide for that, to not kind of guide into a place that you think, which academically we sort of say, okay, you go to school, you get these grades, you go to college, you then go and study, and then you maybe make it to university, then you can get out there and the job will be waiting for you. And that's one path for sure. But as a musician and someone who's very creative, it was always music in some way. And the fact that they allowed me at such a young age to just follow my dreams and just provided for me, when I look back at those days, I think, you know what? You really did give me the platform for me to do what I did, because you could have really shut that down, saying, I'm not picking you up at 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
But you have to be gifted as well.
You have to have a little something. A little something in the vocal cords there, and also the kid that was saying no to my friends when they would come around and say, listen, we're going to go out tonight, we're going to go drinking, we're going to go raving, and I'd be like, no, I need to finish this song. And over a course of months, when those songs started to become Rewind and Fill Me In 7 Days and Walking Away and Born to Do an Album and 7 million albums later, I look back in hindsight, not knowing what intuition was, but now knowing there was something inside of me that said, I need to finish these songs because my voice is going to get messed up with you guys. It would take 2 days for me to finish a song. Whereas if you're working with your hands or you're doing something else, you can get straight back into on Monday morning. So I'm so grateful that I followed my intuition then. And that's why it kind of aptly titled one of the albums before Time Is Now, to follow my intuition.
Born to Do It makes sense then, because it's about focus. Sarah and I, about a year ago, interviewed Stormzy. And he said, every summer he went to the library and read more books than anyone else, because he wanted to go back to school. When they were all out playing, you interview most professional sports people, they will say exactly what you just said. Friday nights, come, let's go out, come on, yeah, get girls, get mashed up, whatever.
Yeah.
And yet they went, no, I need to be focused. I need to do what I'm going to do. And that's interesting. You had that exact, where does that focus come from, do you think?
Do you know what?
Is it both your parents?
No, I
instilled
think
that work ethic in you?
I feel it's more it's intuitive. It's a gut feeling. I can't really put words on it. It's something that you know what's right and wrong in life, genuinely. Like if you get down to the core of things, you know what's right, you know what's wrong, you know what you really should be doing. But the mind will tell you a little story of like, yeah, well, you go out and have a bit of fun. Don't get me wrong. Listen, I went out with my friends and we had some fun. But 9 times out of 10, like I was like, no, I need to finish this. And I spent a lot of time in the library too when I was at college. But those times I was just literally just using all the paper and the printer cartridges so I can make my mixtapes and CDs. So, but like, so you got to hustle. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, great, you're in the library a lot up there. What are you reading? I'm like, oh yeah. We're in a few hours up here reading this printer cartridge and this mixtape is looking very good right now. So respect to Southampton City College for that.
When you have a debut album that is as successful as Born to Do It was, is it always going to be a hugely pressured environment thinking about the next album?
To be honest, I bought into too many cooks in the kitchen. There was the record company had already projected we were going to do 10 million. Or like they were over here, and 7 million albums sold from Born to Do It. I mean, they were like hyped. When Slicker Than Your Average, the second album came out and did 3.5 million albums, somehow I was under the illusion that there was a failure. It was like we were on the decline. I mean, you're doing half the amount of records. And then I think about it now, and this is where you can get caught up in the hype when you start to believe in how many records and statistics. I'd sold 3.5 million albums. Give 3.5 million albums to anyone right now. They'd be their birthday for the rest of the year.
Of course.
And I bought into it. And as soon as you get into that world, then it's a rocky road, because then it's a slippery slope, because then everything is like based upon, well, it's not doing what it did then, and it's not doing that, and you're not. And I was in the mix. But that's a young kid, and that was kind of the pressure, really, of listening too much to other people's opinions.
Who was looking after you?
At this time, and this is the great thing, amazing manager called Colin Lester.
We were going to get onto that. I wanted to talk about Colin.
Okay, but he signed me like as a 17-year-old kid, came down to Southampton just from a record company side of things, and I had an amazing manager before that called Paul Widger, who got me in to meet him, and that was the first kind of them meeting. But he always said to me, listen, you know what, this is a long distance, this is the tortoise and the hare thing.
Not a sprint.
It's not a sprint. It's like, trust me, like you're having the success like nobody could have imagined. Number 1, 7 million albums. I mean, most people are on the 3rd, 4th album trying to get into those kind of numbers. And I'm here straight out of the box, kid from Southampton. He said, but if you want this as a long-term career, trust me, this is not going to be number 1 all the time. You've got to just bed in and enjoy this moment, which at the time when you say that to me, it's like, yeah, it's going to happen. Everything's flowing. We have a number 1 with Feel Me In, number 1 with like 7 Days, the albums. And then you start to see how it plays out. And I look at Elton John, and you look at the Stings, and you look at some of the biggest artists in the world who have these roller coaster rides, but they have the long distance. They're still here doing arenas and stadiums.
So if you were disappointed at 3.5 million, then when you felt as though that fashion had turned against you, that people were feeling that you weren't relevant anymore, then how did you deal with that? Because if 3.5 million hurts you, then that must have really hurt you. Or by that stage, had you built a kind of concrete case around yourself with the help of Colin to be able to deal with that?
Do you know what? I had to dig deep, but it didn't seem so sort of black and white in terms of, okay, things aren't necessarily working out. I'd put another album out called Story Goes. There's another record after that. There was Trust Me. And it was just like the sales were doing okay. They were doing what they needed to do. And it was like we were still thinking about this 7 million and Born to Do It. So what I always just wanted to do is be in the studio and create. But that's the thing of kind of being young and not kind of being centered and finding yourself, which again, this is why having great management, I'm so grateful for Colin, because 17 years together, he's been with me through everything and has always said to me, listen, I'm here and I'll support you and I just want you to be creative. Don't worry about what's going on around you. And I think that really helped me, having that someone that I could reach to who was protecting me, because then now when I look back at this, it's all about, you have to be centered and realize what it is that you got into music for. I love to perform and I love to create, and I want to make timestamps in people's lives and make memories. That's music. The rest is the music business.
Yeah.
And I was music when I came in before I released Born to Do It. Then you can become music business when you're in the mix of it. And I've now gone back to just being music again.
But that level of sort of self-awareness and being so sanguine as you are about it, does that come through bitter experience? Because you can't always have been this zen about it.
No, you've got to hit like a point where I was unsigned for a moment. And I'm like, this is unusual to me. All I've known is from teenager to being signed, putting out records. And then you're looking like, well, there is no record company now. It's like your avenue is going to be the same as any new artist starting off. So it could be your SoundCloud, could be your YouTube, could be whatever it is. And I was putting records out and I'm like, this is not, where's the radio play on this? And it was beautiful because at this time I'd moved out to Miami about 2010. Bought this beautiful home and I was kind of living that life for a moment. And I was like, let me just go enjoy life, let me go that route. I mean, I was very grateful for financially what had gone over those years. So I was like, let me go and enjoy this moment. But what I found out after probably a year and a half of being there is that it didn't complete me. On paper, if I said to someone, listen, I'm living in Miami, I've got the Ferrari, I've got the house, they're like, bro, let me come over, let me come hang with you.
Job done, right?
But I was like, I feel empty. There's something missing here. And it was as simple as I was so far away from my friends and family. I was so far away from the kid who was, I was checking this girl next door when her parents went out. Where's that? Because he didn't have any of this. He was just like literally in the council flat with his mum.
With the hunger,
Making tunes, sleep, like getting no sleep, but just doing it because you just love the music. That I needed to rediscover and find that kid, which Miami really did help me do. So it was necessary for me to go away for a while to do that.
Were there dark times in Miami when you said that you were partying a lot and that you were on the wrong side, as it were, of the velvet rope and the VIP for a long, long time, and you were in a bubble? Were there times there where you thought, I'm totally lost here?
Not so much lost, because there was this, again, that little, the flame that was inside of me that was very intuitive, knew what I was doing as the young kid, was a dimly lit candle at this point in Miami, but still there, just needed to be stoked. And I remember one time where I'd driven my Ferrari, I was like, wow, amazing, to a restaurant, had this amazing time with my friends, came outside, the car was parked right outside the restaurant as well. And I said, tried to turn the car on, wouldn't start. I look at my friends, I say, listen, okay, you go to the club, I'll meet you later on. And I'm in the car now, and it's so hot, it's so humid. Call up the car dealership guy, say, listen, the car's not working out. He said, Lee, you need to turn the ignition on 20 times and open the door 20 times to reset the system. And I'm like, waiting for some Ashton Kutcher kind of punk sketch to happen, you know what I mean? You try and do that outside of a restaurant on the DL, yeah? Or just trying on the download, trying to open your door and turn the lights on and off. But I did it though. The door didn't slam way open. I just did a little bit of the door. Didn't work. He said, listen, a tow truck will come in about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And I was like, really? So my night's done at this point. I'm seeing everyone flooding out of this restaurant, people who work deep in the back of the kitchen, all coming out. People I didn't even know like were working in there. Now it's all closed up. I'm sitting there. It starts to rain. So I'm hot. It's 1 a.m. in the morning. It's humid. I can't get outside because it's raining. And I had this moment, I guess you'd call it epiphany, but I warped back to being this kid who was probably 12, 13 years old in Southampton, who would go to the arcade to go and play the computer games. And there was one arcade game called Outrun, where the guys, you remember this one?
Awesome. Great
we used
game.
to put a lot of pound coins in that. So
Still a great game.
Still a great game. There's a Ferrari, and the guy's driving around the streets of Miami, palm trees, and it's amazing. And I always said to myself as a kid, wow, if I could see a Ferrari in Southampton, that would be amazing. I think I'm never going to see one of those. I mean, let alone to kind of maybe like sit in one would be incredible. Now let's fast forward back. Now I'm in Miami. I've literally walked back and I'm looking at the yellow badge with the black horse on it. And I became super emotional where I'd realized that I'm sitting in the car that 13-year-old kid, I feel shivers now even talking about, 13-year-old kid dreamt of seeing. I owned the car. Not alone did I just own the car, I lived in Miami. And then it started flush back all of like Born to Do It, the albums, the record sales, the places we played, all the different people that we touched with my music. And I realized at that point that if I couldn't be grateful for what I had, I would never be grateful. And everything shifted from that one moment where I was like, the boy got what he wanted, yet he still didn't think he had enough. And I got it. I was like, I have everything I've ever needed. I had it when I was the kid in Southampton. I always had this. I always had it. It wasn't what on paper, it wasn't the material gifts. And I'm so grateful that I had that shift, because then I moved back to the UK. Literally, I'm talking weeks after this moment. Next time I'm walking in with Kurupt FM, and there's Big Nasty. I throw a little freestyle down and Fill Me In over the Where Are You Now Justin Bieber tune. It goes viral. I meet Big Nasty. A week later, we're in the studio doing When the Bassline Drops. All of a sudden, we have our biggest top 10 hit together. Next thing, I'm getting signed again. Next thing, I release an album called Follow My Intuition. It goes to #1. Then I'm on a 17-day arena tour, which is 17 years since Born to Do It. And then now I'm sitting here today, having another album out, just loving life and realizing how grateful I am to have a generation who've been there since day one with Born to Do It, and seeing these young kids discovering me off the new stuff. I mean, come on. It's amazing.
That's the best Ferrari breakdown story ever.
I'm telling you, man. And I didn't even need RAC or AA on that one. It was like, just keep it there.
Let's talk about that, that Mr. Jam, Kurupt FM, that moment being in that studio when you did that. And for people listening who haven't seen that video, it's well worth seeing it, And did you feel that energy? Did you feel, because I guess to the Kurupt FM guys, you're this guy, like you're Craig David. It's like a heritage, like you're one of the foundation stones of the stuff that they're listening to. And to a lot of the grime guys that are coming through, you're one of the foundation stones to why they got into British music in the first place. Did you feel that in that studio at that moment?
Nihal, I can't tell you the energy when I walked through the room went from Kurupt FM, who when they're in Kurupt FM character, to Kurupt FM, we're on a level right now. This is not about, there's no character now. Now I'm an MC. Now I'm you just walked into the building. Big Nasty running over to me with all this love, not even holding back. He said, look, I'm not even going to fanboy, right? I'm just telling you, I'm giving you the biggest hug. Me and my cousin Tyrone, when
That's
we were
a big
grounded,
hug, by the way.
And it was a good hug. It was a hug and we held it.
A good hug.
And he was like, listen, me and my cousin Tyrone, we were listening to Booty Man and Fill Me In when we were grounded. I'm just thinking, this is all flooding out. And then I could feel this energy in the room that when I started to sing the words to Fill Me In over this instrumental of Where Are You Now from Jack Hugh, something was happening. Like I could, even that, the way that people were looking at me like, are we kind of back in 2000 again for a moment? Is it 2015 really now? And then when it went viral and everything that came from that, and I owe a lot of respect for Mr. Jam for having me on the show, because like he was very pivotal in that whole movement. And Andy Varley and Mr. Jam for signing me to the label. You know what I mean? Speakerbox Insanity.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful. And they took a chance, because when the Bassline Drops was the tune I released, it was like, okay, and we're going to go with a garage tune. And something very special happened at the moment, which I'm eternally grateful to the Kurupt FM guys as well, and Big Nasty, because it just reminded me of, it's music, it's about people, it's relationships. Go back to what you did. I was hyped to do Spit at 16, a Sick with 16. I've been doing this since I was 16. I was just hyped. I was doing it off my phone. I was like literally outside vibing stuff. It's just a moment, man. I'm so excited.
I think that's the first rap my son, who's now 10, memorized. Was that rap?
And that's what
he
I'm
knows
saying.
like we drive along in our car, and it's on a USB stick, that version, and we would play it every time. And he is obsessed with those lyrics. It is obsessed. After this interview, I'm going to get you to record it for him.
Yeah, 100%.
Because he's just, I'm sick with 16. Like he would just sit there in the back of the seat, just do it. Still have those skills is amazing. And to see you do the TS5 and do that live, you can see it. You can see how much you are just going, this is a rebirth, like a second coming for me.
It's unreal, man. I mean, guys, like, the silver lining, weird enough, in Miami was throwing a house party there called TS5, which was the name of the apartment. And it was just for a few friends. To have
Started
a
off
couple of
with, like 10 people and then became 100 people.
Exactly. 10 people built to 100. Then it was like people saying, oh, can we come to TS5? And I had to get security on the door because people would just like invite themselves into the party. And I was like, listen, the doors are pretty much open, but we're going to have to cap it off a bit now because it's getting a bit too packed. to see that translate when I brought it back over to the UK, which weirdly enough actually was when I did before Born to Do It, when I was the kid getting picked up with his mum like at 2:00 in the morning when I was using vinyl. So that's kind of where it started, TS5, but it didn't actually incorporate into my live shows then because it was too fast and I was in arenas and I had a band show and acoustic. But then back when we brought TS5 for the first time, and I remember it was in Hackney in London at a club called Oslo, and it was 250 people. And I was thinking, can this translate from a house party in Miami with palm trees and the whole vibe going on to the hipster area, Hackney, in this particular club? It went so well that I saw it go from 250 to then doing another show where we were like 1,500.
I was at Coco in Camden.
Then we went to then we did Coco, you know the drill. And then like 3,000 people Coco. Then we got to Brixton Academy at 5,000. Then with the Follow My Intuition tour and everything, next thing you know, last year, Glastonbury, when I saw nearly 100,000 people going crazy to the band and a TS5 set, which back to the 10 people in my home, I was so emotional. Like, you have no idea. I was playing songs that I was playing this at my party and to my 10 mates having a couple of drinks, and I'm seeing 100,000 people going nuts to this. They literally, after, when I posted it, were like, did you superimpose yourself like into some shot of where it looked like there was loads of people? I goes, I know, bro. This is crazy. He's like, I mean, that's what dreams are made of. I mean, it really is crazy.
Okay. Right. We are going to carry on. We've got you, I believe, for another 14 minutes before you've got to rush off.
All good.
So we're going to take a break, have some news and sport, and then we'll come back to you. Craig, stay there. 85058. Any texts you would like us to read out to Craig David, send them in now. Now, look, a couple of people have asked us about Bo Selecta, and this is a thing that comes up in every single interview. I interviewed you probably 10 years ago, and we talked about it. So we always feel slightly reticent about bringing this up time and time again. Okay. But again, it relates back to that time when it kind of went somewhere else, your career, and you felt like you had to rebuild. One thing I'm interested in is why you didn't, at that point, kind of get rid of Colin, because so many artists, you've seen them, I've seen them, when something gets who do they blame? They're looking for everyone to blame but themselves.
Yeah.
And look at someone. I'm not saying Bo Selecta was your fault. Of course it wasn't your fault. No. But then, you know, how you didn't throw your toys out of pram to your manager or anything like that. Why?
To be honest, you know what? The way I saw Colin deal with it, it was and he treats me like this anyway, and I treat him the same way, like family. So he treated it as if someone had done something against his son. He was so angry, so like protective of me. I mean, the way that he responded to it was like you would expect a father would, because he was just like, I'm not having this. I can't have this. I can't have people kind of like treating you in this way and the things that we've achieved together. Whereas I was in this point where I was like a young kid who didn't quite sort of know what was really happening in its magnitude. I was just like, I want to get in the studio and write another song. So I was aware of it, but definitely wasn't as emotionally attached and charged about the whole situation. It's a comedian, you know, and he was doing his thing, and that his come up was kind of like, unfortunately, wasn't like laughing with you. It was kind of laughing at you and trying to like find its footsteps to use that. And there's other people on the show, Michael Jackson, David Beckham, and everyone was in the mix. And it was very much similar to like Spitting Image back in the day. Do you know what I mean? The caricatures being made. So I didn't enjoy what was going on. I saw what was happening. I was like, you know what? I mean, you've taken it a bit too far now.
Did you cross the line, do you think, it's a bully?
It crossed way over. But what I've learned is I'm not one to hold on to grudges. And it worked out well. It was a comedian doing what he needed to do, and that was it. And we've kind of meant. I've actually seen him and been like, you know what? Listen, it was over the mark, but I just got to be honest, bro. It's like you did what you had to do, and let's look at the positives from it, the silver lining. Me going away and that all happening maybe led into me kind of, I was out in Miami. Maybe that's why I wanted to go and do all that stuff out there. The being away part allowed it to be like I was so off the radar for people for a moment that for me to come back and people say, oh, there's this comeback. Yes. Because if I'd been putting out music that kind of, people would be like, yeah, Craig's about, he's doing his thing, you know. But to go away for such a long time, but yet have such a memory for people in their lives of Feel Me In being a song that you were going to college to, you maybe met your partner to one of the songs. Walking Away might have helped you through like a situation in your life growing up. Yet that artist just seems to have disappeared. It actually made this whole resurgence come back around like, yes. So I look at the positives from it always.
And people think, of course, that you can engineer a comeback like this. But, you know, you could have sat there with Colin and wrote out a plan but there's so much just karma, good karma, and luck, being in the right place, right time, and energy about it. The grime revival, garage revival, all of this stuff. And then suddenly, boom, Craig David is back in everybody's life again in a way that you want it to be.
Nihal, in the same way, like, I mean, I love Colin. I like, genuinely, he's family to me, and like our life spans way beyond manager artist. It's like he just cares, you know what I mean? He cares for all the people he manages, because that's what he does. But our relationship is amazing. But I'll say for you, Nihal, I saw people who said things at times where it could easily have been to me like, let's write Craig off, he's done, you know what I mean? And you would go up and say things like, I want you to come back with new music, I support you. You would stand up for me, like at times where people would just be like, we'll move on to the next. Same with Lorraine Kelly. Lorraine has said things on TV, at times where I wasn't putting music out, and just poured out her love and support for me. That's why when I go onto a show, I'm like, I love you, Lorraine. Like, you, because you see people who Greg James, he was saying on his radio shows way before, Craig, we want you back. Where are you, man? We need you back with the tunes. Way before I put When the Bassline Drops out. You start to see people's true characters who truly love you and support you at those times. And I love that, because I'm grateful that I could bring the goods with the music so we can have these conversations together, Nihal. For me to actually personally thank you, and to say thank you for having me on the show, to be able to be here in a place where I have no regrets, I have no grudges, I'm grounded, I'm grateful.
You still have the Ferrari?
Change it to a Lambo. I enjoy it now. I enjoy it now. Don't you
Is
worry.
it here or in America?
No, do you know what? I moved back. So, I mean, like, everything's shifted. When I'm cancelling tickets to go back, and I should be going there for holidays, and then I'm like, no, I just want to be in the studio back in the UK. I want to work with the AJ Tracys and the Gold Links and the Ella Mays and the JP Coopers and Dan from
Steve Mac.
Bastille.
Well, absolutely. I was going to mention
album,
that.
yeah.
I mean, there's so much collaboration on this new album. We
Yeah.
just want to play another track from it, because this is the latest single that features Dan from Bastille. This is I Know You, Craig David.
It's gonna be a heavy night. Way too many drinks ain't even started. Never need to apologize. We already know we're far from perfect. I fall to the curb. You laugh till it hurts. Who cares? We've been here so many times. We're all stumbling through the night. It doesn't matter. We're all together, and it's paradise in our minds, falling together, arms around each other. I know you know me too. We're all stumbling through the night, but it's paradise in our minds.
Oh, no, you didn't. Oh, no, you didn't.
Oh,
Can you-
man.
I'm getting super geeky here, but the moment in the studio where that drop comes in and you're sitting there, what happens, isn't it? You record the vocals, you put it down, it's mixed, and you're sitting there, usually on a sofa behind the mixing desk.
Yeah.
Mixing desk is there, someone's there. I mean, wow.
It was one of the most beautiful things to hear how it hit. And the thing is, when me and Dan were in the studio from Bastille, and I looked at him and said, we've got something special here, right? And he's like, man, there's something. It's because the whole song's about inclusion. Your friends, your mates. It could be 11:59, like PM, you New Year's Eve, you can't get into the club, but you're with your mates, and somehow it turns into the most memorable night ever. That's what this song is about. You're at a festival, you're just having the best time because you're with your friends. And then the drop, that's a naughty drop. That drop, don't, we're not playing here. No
Every
games,
DJ
no
wants to
games.
play that drop. You need a good sound system for that.
Yeah, definitely. I heard it the first time when I went into one of the shows and it was in an arena. That's where I heard it. The bass was heavy.
So approaching all of these people as you did to make this album, Craig, to make The Time Is Now, how did you go about selecting the people that you wanted to work with? Were there people that you absolutely knew that you wanted to do stuff with, or did people come to you? How did it happen?
Everyone that's on the record are people that I've been super huge fan of. Do you know what I mean? Like JP Cooper, his voice is incredible, and I was like, I would love to work with him. I'm so thankful I reached out and we made that happen. AJ Tracy, I feel, is the next wave of the rappers from the UK is going to break. Gold Link and K Tronada, and again the new wave. Ella May, her vocals are just so pure. And I just want to make an R&B album like Born to Do It, you know, and to see how well it's been received and people saying this feels like the new Born to Do It. I'm thinking, wow, just even those words I'm grateful for. But yeah, it's about supporting, you know. I don't want to be the artist that you get a bit shy and you had #1 with Follow My Intuition and all of a sudden it has to be the biggest names out there. I want to go dig deeper and get the people who are on the come up. So in years' time, you look back and say, okay, you worked with him, okay.
Well, Colin Patton has just come in to sit down with us.
Hello.
Colin's you know.
Colin, you're the guy.
Craig,
Yes.
Yeah, he's
entertainment correspondent, and he's here to talk to us about the Grammy. Of course, you were nominated for a couple of Grammys in 2000. And one of the sort of, I guess, unintended stars of the Grammys last night in some ways was Sting, who was everywhere on the Grammys last night. And you worked with him, right? How did that happen? How did you and Sting get together to make Rise and Fall?
Well, I'd sampled Shape of My Heart for Rise and Fall, so I needed to get clearance for that. And I'd asked if it was
Such
possible.
a good tune.
He said yes. Not only did he say yes, I asked, would it be possible if you would sing on the record? To which he asked his daughter. She was the pivotal part of it, where he said, should I sing the song with Craig? She's like, and I'll embellish the story to make it feel a bit better because I wasn't there in the room. Dad, you've got to work with Craig. You have to work with Craig. He's the guy. So anyway, he came back. He said he wanted to come in the studio and work together. And the next thing I'm in there, I'm watching him in the vocal booth thinking, this is Sting from The Police. I mean, all those songs, all the records, and he's singing the words to a song that I've written. And there's me saying, yeah, but can you just try the ad-lib a little bit different like this? And I had to calm myself. I was like, this is Sting you're telling. And he was so humble and cool with it. But what a beautiful guy. And I learned a lot from him and his career. So it was such a great song to do with him.
I think you've been responsible. One of the best remixes, the DJ Premier remix of 7 Days.
Oh no!
Oh
look at who they let in the back.
Oh my gosh! But look, everybody who meets you has nothing but amazing things to say about you. How generous you are. So I need to know, when was the last time you lost it? When was the last time you had to choose someone out, and why? Because I cannot imagine. I've known you for years. I just cannot imagine you. But you must have that side to you. All of us do.
Now, do you know what it is?
Even me. Excuse me.
So I was
You-
almost
sorry,
spat my tea out.
What do you mean? What?
I'm so sorry.
What was that about? What's that reaction?
Do you know what it is? No, it's like there's two different ways when it comes to like if you're getting angry about something. So something's pushing your buttons or someone's pushing your buttons, and it's kind of, you can feel it. You know, you get that kind of, you can feel it's coming up. It's coming up. Now there's two ways. It's just energy. It needs to dissipate in some way. So it's either it's going to come out in a verbal way, or it's going to be a physical way, or you can let it come up and just watch it. It's a real art to let the energy come. It's coming. I feel I want to say something, but just stay in there. It kind of just it goes. It's like, because you haven't allowed it to come out physically or come out as a vocal. So what happens, you can just be more present with it, and then you know, okay, and you breathe. Breathing is the key, man. If you don't get the breath right, your fist will fly out, or you'll say something and you'll just regret it. You know how you always feel down after you've done something like that?
Yeah.
Like you dissipate it, and then after you're like, I wish I never said that. I wish I never did that. It's just because you've allowed it to take you over. That's what I've kind of learned over a few years.
So then, what about social media? What about tweets? So do you ever respond to someone who's rude to you on Twitter?
No, I don't give them the time. I just haven't. And my thing is, like, you know what? There's going to be things that aren't always going to be what you want to hear. But also realize what social media is. Like, what is Twitter? What is Instagram? It's a way that people can express themselves. And you've got freedom of speech. And 99.9% of the people that speak to me are amazing and say such beautiful things. And there's going to be the 1%. But why is it that you tend to want to focus in on that 1%? I'll focus in on the 99.9. So as far as I'm concerned, life's good. You know what I mean?
Life is good.
You know what I mean?
Life is good. It's good in the Lambo.
Jeez. That's never a bad thing either. Do you know what I
That's
mean?
never a bad thing.
You know what I mean?
Away from Southampton.
What's
you know?
not
Yes.
to like? Well, talking about Southampton, somebody says, Tom in Basingstoke says, hi, could Craig please make more references to Southampton FC and his doings? Despite our current position, you know Southampton fans do it like that. Chloe in Manchester says, so glad Craig David is back. Know all the words to his new tracks, just like I did to 7 Days and Walking Away when I was barely a teenager. major. Somebody else said, I never expected such a powerful and clever interview. Broadcasting at its best. Keep up the good work. Great hearing Craig David. And somebody else just saying, oh, this is good. This is Stu in Birmingham. My little brother drove me balmy with Craig's first album back in the day. I put it on again recently, and absence has made the heart grow fonder. I love it, and I now play it all the time. There you go. Lots of love.
I'm so
there you
grateful.
go.
Thank you.
And you know what? We've run out of time.
Oh, I was going to go for an
On the
overlappage
Grammys.
question.
Yes, let's
Can
go
I
for it.
ask one?
Yeah, of course.
What did you make of Bruno Mars beating Kendrick Lamar to Album of the Year? Bruno Mars, the big winner at the Grammys.
Man, I love Bruno where he's gone with stuff, but Kendrick is lyrically, his content is so right.
Whole different level.
But you know, that's again, you both are up for it. You're both winners. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's only one that's going to come away. It's back to the statistics and the millions of records. You start to get into the world of who really won, you're always going to be a loser somewhere. So both of them, in my ideas, winners. You're both the G's.
Well, the only one who's really hurt is 9 nominations, no wins, Jay-Z.
Jay-Z.
Right? I mean, that's
Ouch.
going to be, wow.
But you're married to Beyonce. Boom.
That is
Drop the
just-
mic
see,
and leave the thing. Bam.
As he says, I brag different. That's what he says in the lyric. And I got the keys. He says, "My wife's Beyonce. I brag different." I mean, what can you
I
say?
ain't
What
a
are you gonna
businessman.
say?
I'm a businessman.
Yeah,
Come on.
that's true. That as well. Craig, really good to
Lovely
see you, man.
talking to
The
you,
album,
Craig.
The Time Is Now, is now.
It is. It's out now. Enjoy.
Magic stuff.
That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you
Thanks so
for-
much.
Thank
It's
you
been a real
so much
pleasure
for having me.
you
You're
in the studio.
amazing.
Lovely stuff. Well, Grammys are cool.